season, but a comeback for the Buffs as they tried their best to get back into this game after a rough start to the second half. Jabari Walker leading the way again for Colorado, and Nick Clifford also had to contribute.
The second game of that three-game road trip, the Buffs were in Seattle, had a close loss against the Washington Huskies. Back here at Corelli's, Buffs primetime Monday nights from 7 until 8. We continue our conversation talking Colorado basketball with Mike Rohn. Tad's always got that line about not getting drunk in your own wine. He uses that all the time, right? So you get a big win like that. Then the next morning we jump in a plane, we fly to Seattle. You got Washington coming up, a team that Colorado had already beaten this season. Comment or two about ends up being a 2-point loss to Washington, but a frustrating game. I know Ted was very upset after that one.
Yeah, it was a little frustrating. You know, I think when we look back at that game and the Washington State game, I think you got to give a little credit to them as well.
Sure.
You know, I mean, UW played a really good game, and obviously Washington State, played really, really well yesterday. And sometimes we forget that the other team's trying to beat our brains out too, and preparing to beat us. And our guys really battled back in that game against UW, and we had a chance. We got the ball to Jabari at the end of that game to tie it up, and we didn't get a great shot, but we made some things happen at the end that were really good, and we gave ourselves a chance to win, and we just weren't able to pull that one out.
That was a little bit of a tough game for me to get my head around. I went back to look at some of the notes I wrote down afterward. You got beat 21-7 in points off turnovers, 38-14 points in the paint, 21-7 outscored on fast break points. Gave up 16 steals. How in the world were you guys even in the ball game at the end of that contest?
Yeah, I think that's exactly the phrase that Coach used. Sometimes you just got to find other ways to make it happen when you're not playing very well.
Sure.
And I think in that game we defended a little bit better, and it gave us a chance. And those statistics are a little staggering because you would think it would just be a blowout.
Sure. That whatever we saw last night in Washington State. Now, I know you guys were all breaking down film on the way home last night to play. What's the takeaway from what we saw yesterday? Because that was, Ted came out and said that was about as bad a game as he said we've had since I've been here.
Yeah, and there's a lot of truth to that. I actually went back today and looked at it over the last 12 years, and I think there's been maybe 2 or 3 that kind of ended up that way for us. And so, we were right there watching it live, so we kind of knew what was going on.
Yeah.
And sometimes, when you watch the film, you're not quite as bad as maybe you think. But
in
that one, we were.
The best part of being the plane ride home? I always sit 4 rows back, so Tad's in the front, and Mike and the other assistants are up here, and they're all watching film on the way home. They're all on their iPads watching the game. And the best part of that, from my viewpoint, is sitting and watching, because every once in a while you'll just see one of them go, ugh, and they just throw their hands in the air while they're watching the game, and then you share it with each other. And it's got to be frustrating, but it's what you guys have to do, right?
Yeah, that's the way we have to learn, and we're still learning this team, It's a day-to-day process for us, and I think this team is continuing to get better. I think last night was it was weird, it was very unlike this team. We've kind of always found a way to keep fighting and find just kind of like buck up a little bit.
Sure.
And last night for some reason we just couldn't quite do it, and nobody was more disappointed than the players and frustrated, and they're just going to have to learn from it and, move forward.
I don't know if this is oversimplifying it. As we're broadcasting the game, I thought to myself, our guys just looked like they weren't dialed in, like just, there was a bit of a fog there for whatever reason, right?
Yeah.
And that's got to be frustrating on the bench when you and Tan and the rest of the staff, you're looking for answers. You're down a couple of guys because, 3 guys. It was Lawson being out, Tristan not being there, and then Eli not playing last night. You're looking for answers, and at some point you're like, where do you go? What do you do?
Yeah, we kept looking down the bench, and it was like, what are we going to do? And usually we're pretty deep, and we can find a way to ignite a little different energy into the game. And last night we weren't able to do that. As we looked down there, I certainly wasn't going in. That's for sure.
I asked Tad afterward. I said, there are some coaches that'll just flush the tape. So you know what? That was a bad game. We're going to flush the tape. Everyone knows it wasn't good. And Ted was very clear. We're not that kind of staff. That's not what we do.
I don't think we've ever done that.
Right.
You're right. Some people do. Maybe we've done that one time.
Yeah.
But this team still needs to learn, and we need to find out why. And Coach challenged them, when we got back late last night, to come with some answers, tomorrow. Like, why did we not have the energy that we needed to have?
Sure.
Regardless of who was there and who was not there, we just, we got to. That's why we're a team.
Sure.
Other guys got to step up. And last night, we just didn't have anybody really step up and play very well to kind of get us going a little bit. And it was unfortunate.
As the Buffaloes get ready for Oregon, that quick rematch from last Tuesday to this Thursday, that's an 8 o'clock game on Thursday night. We're going to hit the air at 7:30 on the network. We'll go ahead and take a timeout here at Corelli's. It's Buffs Prime Time. Dominique Clifford's going to join us next out of Colorado Springs, a sophomore